Fabulous. Okay, well, welcome to our seminar in including those with additional needs in camp activities. So my name is Dorothy, and I'm married to Nick, and you may be thinking, what on earth qualifies you to be standing up here telling us anything about this? So I'm just going to give you a little bit of an insight into my background. I am born and brought up in Dublin, in Southern Ireland. Woohoo! See, all you Nordies came across. We're still in the north, but we're nearly there. So I grew up in Dublin. I'm the youngest of three girls. My eldest sister, as Nick said, had additional needs. So she had something called Duchenne muscular dystrophy, but that's quite unusual in a girl. She was a manifesting carrier of Duchenne muscular dystrophy. How's that for an absolute mouthful of a diagnosis? So I grew up with a sister who was getting weaker as she got older, so I grew up adjusting life to someone with additional needs. I then trained as a physiotherapist, so worked with people with additional needs, particularly in the area of neurorehabilitation and elderly care. So my husband says I'm a long-term investment because I'll treat him when he gets over 65. So that's all good. So then I met my husband in Bible college over in the UK. I was planning to come back to Ireland to work as a women's worker for a church in Dublin, but I ended up marrying Nick. So I have worked alongside him in a voluntary capacity, helping him with women's work and with children's work and youth work for quite a few years now. And we have two children. So Bethany, you can't really see in this picture. She'll be absolutely thrilled to see I've practically cut her out. She's the one on the right-hand side with the glasses. And then our son, she's 14, and our son William is 11, and he's there on the left in the Spider-Man jammies. So we have two children, and because I have been assisting Nick with children's work and youth work, we have been able to adapt our activities as we go for William, our son with additional needs. As he has got weaker, as he's got older, we have just been able to adapt activities because we've been in charge of them, so that's how activities have happened. So in some ways, that's why I'm here talking to you, but as you can tell, a lot of the additional needs that I have dealt with have been mainly physical, not so much on the autistic spectrum disorder or sensory needs. So I don't know as much about that, and I'm sure there are some here who know far more than I do about including folk with those sorts of needs. So feel free to chip in if and when you feel necessary. So that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm blathering to you from the front. So I'll get going. So that story, Ian, pulls at my heartstrings. I can identify so much with that film. Obviously, I'm, I suppose, the mummy in that film, and I can identify with so much that I see in there. But it's inspired by a true story of this little boy here, Ian. Ian has cerebral palsy, and he speaks by using eye movements, which activate a computer, which is how he speaks. He's from Brazil, and his mummy has to bring him to lots of therapy sessions. And she was going to one particular therapy a couple of times in a row, and she had to go past a school, and there was a playground, and the children all pointed and laughed, and every time they went past, they pointed and laughed at Ian in the wheelchair. And she got so cross. One time she dropped into the therapy, marched back to the school, knocked on the door of the school, demanded to see the headmistress. And as she was waiting for the headmistress to come out, she decided actually this is probably not the best way in which to tackle this. So she decided to write a book called The Gift. So anytime she met someone in a playground with Ian, she'd give them the book, The Gift, which would explain Ian and his needs and how he is a gift. Now, as far as I know, this lady is not a Christian. But then she decided that that wasn't getting the word of inclusion out fast enough. So she decided to go with a film. So the film, Ian, is what ensued. So what can we as Christians, in some ways, seeking to include people with additional needs in our camp, what can we learn from the film, Ian? So, the fence. What do you think the fence is? Any ideas? What was the fence? It was quite arty, but what is the fence? Any ideas?
Is it I saw it as the boundary that normal people here.
Yeah. Go for it. Yeah.
The dog saying, this is our place, that's your place.
Yes, exactly. It's the boundary. Yeah, we put it in place, don't we? It is arbitrary depending on the circumstances, yes. So when did you see it appear? Was there any particular points in the film that you saw the fence started to appear, or we saw the fence again, or he flew through the fence? Anything that prompted that? Did you notice? You might not have noticed, there's a little boy does a lot of giggling, and whenever he giggles, that's when the boy starts to go past. So he's giggling at Ian. There was another little boy who makes a kind of a lip curl, kind of looks quite disgustedly at him. And that's when he disappears in again behind the fence. And one that resonates so much with me, and it's not done necessarily out of any badness, is the wee girl that runs up, plays with Ian for like 2 seconds, and another person comes along and she's off up on the playground equipment that Ian can't get on. And then he feels left out again, so he's back in behind the fence. And that is something I, as a mummy, have witnessed with my son. And it's not that the other kids are being bold or mean. It's just they don't recognize that your son is getting left behind, and your son is behind that fence as such. So what emotions can you identify in the film? There was a lot of emotions. Every time I watch it, I cry, and I've watched it loads of times at this point. Any emotions that we can identify? What about the mummy? Yes, helplessness, yes. Yeah, anything else?
You could see Ian's frustration.
Yes, yeah. There's a couple of times when he fell, or when, he was trying to do things, you could just see that frustration. Yeah, anything else?
Mum is concerned for her son when she sees he's upset.
Yes, she can feel that pain, can't she? That pain of rejection and the helplessness. She can't do anything about it. And it's so painful. What about Ian?
There was a determination with him to try and be included.
Yes, and I think that's a really important thing to see as well. There was a determination. He wanted to be included as well, wasn't there? So I think sometimes we can think it's all one way, but there is a two-way street sometimes, yes. So let's have a look. So the sadness of Ian and his mother, obviously that was very obvious. The pain of being able to move as others do. He's sitting there watching them all climb and jump and run. And this is something that's very, very recent for us. William had activity week in school today, school in the last week, and seeing everyone run and jump, and he just found that really hard and came home crying, saying, "Mummy, I just want to walk." It's so hard, isn't it? It's painful. The pain of rejection as well. That wee girl that ran off, initially was like, "Oh, she's coming to play with me," and then she was gone. That's really hard. Anger. Did you see Ian's anger where he stopped the wheelchair and he was off for that fence? And I thought initially when I saw that he's off for the fence, I thought, we're going to have one of these Hollywood moments and he's going to suddenly walk and it's all going to be fine. But it wasn't. The fence was still there. And the frustration, we saw the frustration. And the loneliness. Did you see Ian on his own with his mummy? Like, I like to think I'm the coolest mummy on earth, but really I'm sure William would like to hang out with someone other than his mummy. So yeah. Now, what makes the fence disappear? Any ideas? What did we see that caused it to disappear? Yes, they were pulling him through, weren't they? They were pulling, and actually then, as they were pulling, they suddenly appeared on the other side of the fence. And it just took one wee girl to start it, didn't it? One person started and the others followed. And there's also, as we were saying, there's a lot of effort on behalf of Ian. Ian wants to be included. You can see the determination. He is going to get to the other side of that fence. And it's lovely to see that as well. So we can see that it just takes one little girl to start, and then the others followed. And we as camp leaders, we can be those fence breakers. So we can see ourselves as fence breakers. If there's any of those barriers and stuff, they're like fences. We can be fence breakers and we can lead the charge on that. So how does all this intersect with what we learnt earlier from Nick and from God's word? I don't know if you noticed, all the characters are made of the same stuff. Now, the lady who made this film, again, I don't know, but I don't think she's a Christian, but she very much said in one of her interviews, she wanted it to be clear that the characters were all made from the same stuff and that makes them equal. But actually we know, yes, we are made from the same stuff, but what makes us equal is the fact that we are all made in God's image. And because we're made in God's image, that's what gives us dignity, that's what gives us worth. It's not what we look like, not what we do, not what we can't do. It's the fact that we're made in God's image, and that gives us dignity and worth. But the world is broken, and I don't know if you saw the stuff kind of falling apart in lots of places, the bits falling off. Those cracks were very visible. We're all broken, and we see his struggles, and we also see the pain, we see the suffering, see the frustration. We also see the mean behavior. We see the kids laughing and curling the lip in disgust, and the running off, the maybe not meaning to be selfish, but it is selfishness, isn't it? So we see that. And we feel a desperate sadness, don't we, at the state of this human condition, this human behavior. And we need a solution, don't we? And wonderfully, we have a solution if we're trusting in Jesus. There is a future where there will be no more suffering, no more tears. But Jesus commands us here and now, those who are trusting him, to include those that the world doesn't. And then we see them all play together at the end. And it just reminds us, doesn't it? We're all part of God's body. We all need to be there, and it's lovely just to see them walk off and playing together. And we didn't have that Hollywood moment. Ian is still in his wheelchair. He's still broken. He's still suffering. We're all broken. We're all suffering. So we don't see that brokenness disappear, but we long for it to disappear, don't we? We long for a time when there's no brokenness, no suffering. And the fence was broken. Wonderfully, we see in the film the fence is broken, but there will be other fences. There'll be other places where Ian is excluded, and it is exhausting. And we long for eternity, don't we? It makes us long for the time where we can run and jump. And my son has said about his Auntie Elizabeth, he said, in the new creation, Auntie Elizabeth and I, we're going to climb Mount Everest together. And isn't that just wonderful? This broken, weak little boy has got such a wonderful hope in the risen Lord Jesus, and he has a hope of eternity. Oh, talking about that little boy, there he is in his power wheelchair at a holiday club that we were doing a year or two ago. So what does this all mean practically on camp? How can we be fence makers? It all sounds beautiful, but actually when the rubber hits the road, it is hard work, but it is worth it, so worth it. So how would you define inclusion in terms of camp? If you were told very quickly, how do you define inclusion in terms of camp, what would you say? I have a little bit of a pet peeve with the word inclusion, to be honest. Quite often we have, we're inclusive. It's like, well, if you're truly inclusive, you wouldn't have to advertise yourself as inclusive. But anyway, that's a mummy pet peeve. This might help here. I don't know if you've seen this picture to do with equality and equity, and I know it gets us into trouble with gender and race and all this sort of stuff, but I think in our situation, this is a good picture. So inclusion is so much more than just physically getting to camp. I like to say inclusion is so much more than a ramp up to the front door. That's wonderful, I can get into the building. What do I do now? I can't get to the toilets, or I'm not included in the activities. Inclusion is so much more than a ramp up to the front door. Inclusion is facilitating each camper to fully participate in the life of camp. That's facilitating each camper to fully participate in the life of camp. Some campers might need no boxes. Some campers might need 10 boxes. But we want to facilitate them fully participating in the life of camp, fully participating in the body of camp, of the body of Christ. And that's what we're about here. This, I think, helps to demonstrate it. We had a holiday club that I'd shown you about, and we had bunting of the world, and all the kids were running up, and they were jumping, and they wanted to hit the flag, and it was yay when we hit the flag. Now, William obviously can't run and jump, but he's got a riser function on his wheelchair, so he was right. So a riser function, he put it up and put his hand up, and he was going to hit the flag. Now, sadly, he was about 2 inches too short. And you can see everyone rooting for him there in the background, rooting for him to hit the flag. And Max, one of the leaders, just pulls the bunting down slightly. It's a wooden box, but pulls the bunting down slightly. William hits it. Well, look at that smile, and look at the cheers of everyone around him. That is facilitating William to participate in the life of camp, isn't it? So here are some guiding principles. As camp helpers and leaders, we're fence breakers. We set the example. We lead the charge. We encourage others. We're like that wee girl. We get going, and when that wee girl goes towards Ian, others follow. We set the tone. We set the behavior, don't we? And with every activity, think about the needs of all the campers And I'm not even saying think about the needs of the campers with additional needs. We've got campers with different likes and dislikes. Now, some of you are going to find this really offensive. I do not like chasing a ball on a field for 90 minutes, particularly if after 90 minutes we can end up with 0-0. Why would you even bother? I do not like football. Now, there are people here who love football, and I think there's some camps, particularly the boys' camps, that are very football driven, and that's great. But it makes it very hard for those who don't like football. They might not have additional needs, but they don't like football. So how do we cater for all our campers, and particularly those with additional needs who just can't play football? Sorry, I'm picking on the boys' camp. Forgive me. But it's just thinking about all campers. So how can we work around that? So I'm not saying from now on there's no football on camp. I'm not saying that. Is how can we include everyone and facilitate everyone playing a part in camp? If there's an activity that's inaccessible, provide a positive alternative and give all the campers the option. And you know what? You might be really surprised. If you give 2 options, present them both positively, you might actually find more people sign up for the one that you think isn't so good in your eyes but is accessible than you think. So give positive options if something's inaccessible. Recently, my son, they were at the school tour, were going to go to a bog, to visit the bog, to discover the life of a bog. And I just said to the teacher, I said, look, let's call a spade a spade. A bog is inaccessible. End of. Let's not even try. But we need to provide a positive alternative to the bog as such that the person who needs can have. So communicate well with parents, caregivers, and with the camper themselves. Parents spend their life making tweaks and doing things to help their children with additional needs join in. They're the experts at it. You could ask them and they might be able to go, oh yeah, if you just did this or did that, that would make a big difference. So communicate with the parents, with the caregivers. And not all children, but a lot of the children with additional needs themselves will be able to tell you. William may have issues with his legs, but he has no issues with his mouth, and he will tell you in no uncertain terms how you can help him. And we could probably teach him a little bit about grace with his language. So do communicate well. Remember that inclusion involves work on behalf of everyone. So everyone has this desire to include. It's everyone's work. It is hard work, but it is not just you're not saying, oh, here, you can come and enjoy this and we'll include you and it'll be good for you. No, actually, it'll be good for everyone. It'll be good for everyone on camp. It'll be good for the leaders. It's good for everyone to include what we would consider the dishonourable parts of the body, to include the little toe, whatever it is good for everyone. And not only is it for the good of the child with a disability and the good of everyone, that child, they also have a valuable contribution to offer. And we're missing out if they're not there. We need them there. They make a valuable contribution. Sometimes the things William says, I just go, oh, thank you, Lord. You know, he can say, like just with the picture of Auntie Elizabeth, taking her out of the wheelchair and saying, she doesn't need this anymore. She is with her Lord and Saviour. And when we both go there, we'll be climbing Everest together. And I'm thinking, that's my little 8-year-old is preaching to me. Praise God for him and for that faith. Another thing is having the attitude of we're a team, okay? So everyone on the camp, we're a team, or I think you have squads. You're all divided up into squads. We're squads, we're a team. No one is left behind. We do everything together as a team, and we all have a part to play. And quite often, team points help with this. So team points don't always have to be for the best footballer or for the person who won the fastest race. It can be for the person with the biggest smile. It can be for the person who did something kind. It can be for the person who remembered the memory verse. It can be, so you can award points for the team, and you're reinforcing that everyone has a part to play. Everyone has different gifts, and rewarding all those different gifts by rewarding points for the squad. And everyone loves a little bit of competition, don't they? It gets everyone going. Be proactive in free time. I think free time is when people get left behind and people get forgotten. So the camp that we help with the camp in Cavan and Monaghan. It's not perfect. But one of the things that we have started to do is we've started to have an area, it's called the concourse, where there's dobble, there's chess, there's drafts, there's Lego, there's all sorts of things that can be done. So in free time, there's a hub, somewhere where you can go, somewhere where you can find there'll be leaders who will be there to play with you. So it's not to say some of the boys who want to go play football. But there is space for those who don't want to play football. And as leaders, be those fence breakers. Get people to say, oh, hey, how about William's really good at chess. Who wants to play William? And maybe we can get some squad points for the person who beats William, or, something along those lines. Be proactive.
Ohana means family. Family means nobody
gets left behind
or forgotten. Yeah.
Lilo and Stitch. Everyone knows about Lilo and Stitch. Ohana, we're family. Nobody gets left behind and nobody is forgotten. Isn't that a great mantra to have on camp? Now, here's a real life scenario in New Life Letterkenny. We have some folk in New Life Letterkenny who are in our junior CY, and we deal with this every time we have CY. We need to include everyone. So here they are. I'm biased. I love this little guy. This guy is William. Meet William. He is our son. He's 11. He lives in Donegal, loves drawing, bird watching, Lego, playing the piano, ukulele, and guitar. And yes, he has taught himself all those things. And he is in the middle of writing a Christian novel with his sister, Bethany, whose head's poking out there. So ask him about it the next time you see him. He has got something called Duchenne muscular dystrophy, which is a progressive muscle wastage disorder, which means as he gets older, he gets weaker. So his arms and his legs get weaker, but his heart and his lungs will also be affected. So he will also need ventilation as he gets older, first at night and then throughout the day. And sadly, it is a life-limiting condition. So William deals with that every day. He has, currently he's a full-time power chair user. He has reduced power in his arms for throwing, but he can throw and catch within reason. So a sponge ball would be good for William. Fatigue can be an issue, and obviously in camp, lots of things are happening, so that's something to remember. Fatigue can be an issue, and he struggles with chronic migraines as well. So I hope you like his hat. It's a lovely fashion statement, but actually it's medical. He needs that to help stop. Lights can trigger chronic migraines, and fatigue can trigger his migraines as well. He will have a full-time carer on camp, and that carer will sleep in the room with him. So the camp that we go to, Nick is a leader, I'm a leader. It's mixed age, so we have 3 different camps all on the same campus, and it's mixed sex as well. So Nick and I can go as leaders, yet also care for William at the same time. So he won't, at the moment, be at an RP camp, but we would love to see that in the future. Now, here's another cool little chap. Meet Stephen. His mummy's in the room as well, another proud mummy. Stephen's 11. He's from Donegal. He likes books, watching TV, throwing frisbees, or throwing just about anything. Playing tag. He loves Mr. Men and shaking things. He likes bouncing on trampolines or gym balls. Stephen, however, dislikes high-pitched sounds and loud, unexpected noises, hearing people crying or shouting or surprises. Stephen has Down syndrome, including reduced dexterity, so with his fingers moving things, and coordination, and he has sensory processing difficulties. He can have difficulty communicating and concentrating. Stephen may rock back and forward when there's a change or when things are getting exciting, and he likes to shake things and chew sensory toys. When you talk to him, Stephen might not look at you, but please don't think that Stephen is not listening to you. He is. So these are 2 boys with quite diverse needs. How do you run a junior CY with games and crafts and everything that accommodates these 2 boys? And let me tell you, we have great fun and it can be done. It just involves thinking and planning. But camp is missing out if they are not there, okay? So for Stephen, he is an example of contentedness. He's an opportunity for others to demonstrate kindness and helpfulness. This is what his mummy writes, and this is true, okay? It's lovely to see this. is an increased understanding of difficulties other children may have and how to help them. So other campers, when they meet him, will have this increased understanding. And I think we can see that at school. His peers in school have this increased understanding of how to help. And it increases his peers and the campers and the leaders, increases their empathy. William, his enthusiasm for learning more about God and his ways encourages others. Have you ever done a children's talk and no one's putting their hand up? Have you ever had a Bible study and no one's talking? William is your man. Hand will be up, he will talk. It's great. I have to say, he's rescued us from a lot of children's talks. He is a loyal friend, but he's not afraid to say the hard things. He could probably learn a bit of grace with that. But if you're his friend, he will be very loyal. He's a lovely, loyal friend. He has an amazing imagination and a great sense of humor, and even makes jokes about the fact that he can't walk or he can't open things. And it's lovely. And he is never short of a word or two. I like to blame the daddy for that. We'll just leave that there. And it's a chance for others to show kindness and develop empathy when they see him and what he can't do, but what he can do. So what are the barriers to inclusion in camp? What are the fences? So we've got physical barriers, we've got program barriers, and we've got people barriers. So you may laugh at that picture, but you know what? Sometimes it feels like this. Access to buildings and rooms. Make sure he can actually get into the rooms, and he can actually get into the rooms that you need to use. Where we have our camp, wonderfully he can get in, but then there's a wee step into the next room. So it's like, what do you do? But if you have this planned ahead of time, you can maybe have a temporary ramp, or you can figure out a way around it. It's just making sure you have those access to rooms and to buildings. And then once you're in the room, places like the meeting room, don't stick him down the back in the corner. Have the chairs set up so that he's in among everyone else, that he's fully included, that that wheelchair can fit in, can move round the room. When he gets to the dining room, is there a place that he can sit at the table where he's included with everyone? Simple things. Can he go up to the hatch? Now, he'll need a helper, but can he go up to the hatch and choose what he's going to eat? He needs to be in charge of what he's going to eat. Is there physical room to get round the room to do that? Just things like that. It just takes a little bit of thinking. It might not even be that hard. Just takes a little bit of planning and thinking. What about access to the toilets? Is the meeting room down one end and the toilets are way, way down the other end? The disabled toilets, is he going to be able to go to the toilet? Parking, if you go out on a trip, is there parking? Nick and I could write a thesis on disabled parking and rubbish disabled bays and all the rest. Our van is a backloading van, so it's no use to parallel park with our van unless you've got 2 meters behind you. Simple things like that. Surface, you're thinking, what do you mean by surface? Well, gravel is our enemy. You can get to gravel, you can get so far, and then the wheels will just spin and you'll just dig yourself further and further into the gravel, and it can be a nightmare to get out of. William can't go on the beach in his ordinary wheelchair. However, there is a beach chair available at some beaches, and there's even a beach wheelchair that is a power beach wheelchair available in Nairn and Donegal, the only place in Southern Ireland. Woo! But it just takes planning, doesn't it? What about noise? Stephen struggles with high-pitched noises or children screaming. Are you going to have your meeting room beside the creche? Or are the children going to be crying? Or is there going to be high-pitched noises? If so, Stephen's going to really struggle. Maybe you either need to stop that noise or move your meeting room. What about lights? William can be, his migraines can be triggered by bright lights, and some children can be quite light sensitive. Just thinking about where the child sits, where is the light coming in the windows, can we help them with that? Again, communication with the parents before camp is key in this. Some children are quite sensitive to smells and can be really put off by smells. Is your meeting room beside the kitchen? How's that going to work? Just different things to think through ahead of time. And crowds, if a room can get quite crowded, sometimes dinner time can be quite crowded, and they can be quite noises. And I believe on girls' camp, if you stick your elbows on the table, you can have this song sung and lots of banging. What do you do if someone's noise sensitive? Maybe instead of banging on the table, you can flap your hands in the air. It just takes a few things to think these things through. Brilliant. So they're eliminating physical barriers. What about program barriers? You've got a full week of camp. Maybe getting the timetable to a child beforehand and that they know what's happening every day and when, being clear, having timetables on the wall, maybe having pictures beside them if that's what they need so they understand what they are, what's happening. Unexpected changes happen. We know that. We have to deal with that. But making sure that the child who struggles with change, someone maybe who's on the autistic spectrum, they might struggle with change, making sure that they know as soon as you know that things are changing, that you explain it to them well. There could be confusion regarding what an activity is. I got sent a timetable that had the chase on it. Does that mean we're all going to run around camp and chase each other? Probably not. But a child who reads that, who thinks very literally, that's what they think. So make sure that they know ahead of time what that activity is. And if you're saying, oh, we're going to, run rings around each other, they might literally think, just need to be careful with your communication of what things are. If you've got a Bible study and someone who maybe struggles with unexpected change, maybe we're going to ask them to read out loud in a Bible study. Warn them ahead of time and ask them, is that okay? Are you happy with that? Make sure you've thought through those things ahead of time. Activities that are not thought through well, guilty. I have done games that I've thought, right, well, I need to include William and I need to include someone else and I need to do this. Oh yeah, this game, this will work, and I want to reinforce the main point of the story, that'll work. We're halfway through the game and the kids turn around and go, how do you get the points here? How do you do this? And I go, oh, haven't actually thought this through really well. And then it becomes very confusing for someone who needs direct and clear communication. Make sure you think the game through properly before you start. Locations of activities, if you've got someone who's got difficulty moving and you've got one activity down here and one over here and you're expecting to go back and forth, you're going to exhaust them before they even get to the activities. Think those sorts of things through. Is your activity going to be beside somewhere where there's lots of loud noises or unexpected bangs? Maybe some maintenance work is being done or something. Just think that through. Think actually maybe Stephen might struggle with that. Could we move the activity somewhere else where he's not going to struggle as much? And timings. Some talks can be very long, like me. I'm talking long. You might need an activity break. Some children need activity breaks. Some children need to move around. And they may have behaviors where they're moving or they're chewing or doing different things. That doesn't mean they're not listening. That's actually facilitating them listening. So make sure you know what's going on before maybe you think, oh, that child shouldn't have that, and take it off them. Make sure you know what's going on first. Now, people barriers, language. We went to Glenveigh National Park and William was going to get on the bus. And I hadn't noticed at the time. He came home and he was crying and we were like, and Nick got it out of him, what's the problem? Oh, they were talking about getting the wheelchair on the bus and the wheelchair doing that. Can they not see? It's a boy in the wheelchair. Why can't you talk about the boy with the red hat, not the wheelchair? So just thinking through what we say and being sensitive and loving in what we say. And sometimes we don't even realize it. So maybe talking to parents and saying, is there anything that if I were to say would be really hard for the child to hear? Talking about those things ahead of time. And I know the camp committee have worked on an assessment form beforehand to talk with parents of children with additional needs, to ask all these questions, and hopefully that information is available to all the leaders on camp so that they know ahead of time what they're dealing with and what they can and can't say. Fear. Sometimes there's a fear. William comes along with this ginormous big power chair and there can be a lot of staring and fear of what to do. Well, we can be fence breakers. Get in there, chat to him. He is a normal little boy. That word normal, what is normal? He's a little boy who likes little boy things. Talk to him about those. Maybe there's some behaviors that are slightly off-putting. Maybe there's eye contact not being made. Don't let that put you off. That child also wants to be talked to as well and treated like and included in camp. Communication. I know with Stephen, communication. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And he'll tell you do this or do that. Do you want to do something? Yes or no. So clear, careful, concise communication, not long and waffly like I am at the moment, but clear and concise. And also the recognition of different needs when learning. I was talking about that. Some people need to move around and that's okay, but knowing that ahead of time. Now, I'm fast running out of time. Just thinking about adapting activities. So you're thinking of the squad games that maybe you play every day, or all the different activities that you're doing. Is there some sort of principles in adapting them? And I think here I'm thinking more kind of games and squad games on how to adapt them. Sometimes it's just a small tweak that can make a big difference. So here is bench ball becomes chair ball. So I don't know, you know, bench ball where everyone stands, you've got two goalies, they're standing on a bench and you throw the ball to them and they catch it. Well, here we say chair ball. So you've got one person sitting in a chair at one end as a goalie and William in the wheelchair at the other end as a goalie. You've got chair ball. William is fully included. And if ever you need to change around, they sit in a chair. And introducing netball rules I find is really helpful, so that once you catch the ball, you stop. So that means there isn't this full tilt running for things. Once you catch the ball, you stop, and then you pass it on, and you maybe have for the count of 3 to pass it on. But simple things like that can make it still challenging, but it can just slow things down a little bit. Games with multiple roles. Here on the left we have Twister. I have 2 Twister mats, and William is the one who's twisting the spinner, and he's the one telling them what to do, and he's laughing at them when they can't do it and they fall over. But there's multiple roles. Here's another game where they had to get the plates from one side of the yard to the other into the bucket on William's lap, and someone else and the other team are trying to stop them with pipe lagging, trying to knock the plates out of their hands. There's multiple roles, and that way you can include people. I know for us, Stephen loves throwing. You can have a relay race where you've got a bowl with a dice and you can't run in the relay race until one person has thrown a 6. So Stephen maybe is at one side and William's at the other team, and nobody can run until you've thrown 6. And then when they throw 6, they go up and down, and eventually it's the team that's all run that wins. But Stephen and William are actually key parts in that game, because if they're not throwing the dice, nobody goes anywhere. So, multiple roles like that. Games where speed is not always the outcome. I think we like to have speed as the outcome. The first person past the post, it seems quite natural. But actually, this game here, we were doing Daniel and the vegetables and the water, and we had a big box of water with vegetables in it, well, toy vegetables, and ladles, and they had to go up, run up, grab a vegetable with water and come back. But actually, to win that game, you had to bring the most water back. So what do you do if you have to bring the most water back? Well, you're going to have to slow down, aren't you, and go really slowly to try and get water back. So it's not about the first person back, it's the most water. It changes things slightly, but makes it more inclusive. Challenges where you nominate a number from a team to do them. So maybe you're having mini Olympics. So maybe you say 2 people will do this one, and we'll nominate 2 people for this particular activity. William was well able to shoot a Nerf gun and knock cards over. That could be the activity that you nominate him for. Just recognizing that you've different gifts in your team and nominating different people to do them. Some activities are potentially not possible to make accessible. If that's the case, make positive alternatives. I'm running out of time. I was going to get you all to design a squad game with William and Stephen in mind. So what you might do, maybe in your camp meeting later on this evening, maybe just take 2 minutes even and just say, right, if we had William and Stephen on camp, can we design a squad game that would include them? And if you ever want to talk to myself or Judith, please just contact us. We would be so delighted to help you tweak things or change things. Here are some very quick ideas. You can do capture the flag. William could be in the base and capture the flag, and the base has got, see here, has got the four cones around it, and nobody's allowed to stand in there, and you have to throw it into the bucket, but you're not allowed to stand in the base. Things like that. You can adapt these games with different roles in them. Chair ball with netball rules. Dodgeball. Dodgeball's great. William can fire sponge balls at people and knock them, and that's great. Stephen, well, he would just love to throw a sponge ball at you. That would just be joy. Relay races with different rules. I don't know if you've ever seen those litter pickers. My son has a litter picker to help him pick stuff off the ground. You can use litter pickers in games. You can do mountains and valleys with a litter picker. You can introduce litter pickers for everyone to use. Well, sure, that'd be great fun. But actually, it helps William to join in, isn't it? Water games. William's got a great water cover he can put over his wheelchair and you can soak him. It's fabulous. Tournaments like chess, double, those sorts of things. You can have your table tennis tournament, but how about a chess tournament? How about a double tournament? Find out what games work well. Photo treasure hunts work well, mountains and valleys with pickup sticks. Treasure hunts or games, like I even do relay games, where one person needs to be at the base. Maybe they're running down to the chair to pick up Scrabble pieces, and that Scrabble piece needs to be unscrambled to make a word that goes with the story of the game, of the story that you've been teaching that day. And the person at the base is key because they're the ones that's unscrambling, and the others are doing the running and gathering. So William will unscramble things for you. No problem. Some blindfolds I've used for, you've blindfolded the person who's doing whatever challenge it is, and William's the one, or Stephen or whoever, is telling them directions, where they need to go. You need to go left, you need to go right, so they're being the eyes for them. Maybe you can include an exception card to a certain rule. So when you play chase in school with William, you're not allowed to actually touch the chair. You have to touch William himself, and that slows things down. Or William has an exception card. That rule doesn't apply to him. Just think it through, things that can be helpful in including them. And then points given for various things during the game. For example, the person who passed the most, or the biggest smile, or the person who threw the furthest. Stephen can throw an Olympic throw. He might not hit the target, but give him points for throwing a massive big throw, and he'd be thrilled. And that's him fully participating in the life of camp. So that's been a bit of a whistle-stop tour through activities. I'm available, Judith's available, Nick's available. If you ever want to ask questions, we would be so pleased to chat. Just get in contact. Thank you so much for listening.